When the Galactic Council finally realized that humanity's decades of diplomacy had been mistaken for weakness, it was too late because the humans had already stopped playing by the rules. The Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council stretched across 3 kilometers of polished obsidian, its crystalline walls reflecting the bioluminescent forms of 1,000 species. At the center, a single human figure stood before the towering tribunal. Ambassador Elena Vasquez, her formal diplomatic uniform a stark contrast to the exotic forms surrounding her. Before we go any further, comment where in the world you are watching from and make sure to subscribe because tomorrow's story is one you don't want to miss. Council Prime Zethkar, a being of flowing plasma contained within a magnetic field generator, pulsed with authoritative golden light. Ambassador Vasquez, your species has been disruptive to galactic harmony. The Rigelian mining dispute, the Centauri shipping conflicts, the vegan agricultural territories, humanity's expansion has violated 17 separate accords. Elena's voice carried across the chamber with practiced calm. Honorable Council, humanity seeks only to contribute to galactic civilization. We've followed every protocol, submitted to every arbitration, accepted every compromise. We've given up resource rights, territorial claims, and trade advantages in the name of peace, and yet, interrupted Council Member Velth Ara, her crystalline form chiming with each word, conflicts continue to follow human expansion. Perhaps it is time to consider restrictions. The chamber fell silent. Elena felt the weight of 1,000 alien gazes upon her. She had spent 15 years of her life in this chamber, speaking for humanity, negotiating, compromising, always yielding ground in the name of diplomacy. What kind of restrictions? Elena asked, though she already knew the answer. Zethkar's plasma form shifted to a cooler blue. Humanity will be confined to the Sol system. No further expansion, no new colonies, no resource extraction beyond your home system. This is the Council's final decision. Elena stood motionless for a long moment. Behind her, the human delegation remained eerily quiet. Finally, she spoke, her voice carrying a strange new quality, not anger, not defiance, but something colder. I see, and if we refuse, then you will face the combined might of the Galactic Defense Force, Zethkar replied. Surely you understand the futility of resistance. Elena nodded slowly. I understand perfectly. She reached into her jacket and withdrew a small device, a quantum communicator. This is Ambassador Vasquez to Earth Command. Authorization Omega 77. Execute Protocol Midnight. The chamber erupted in confused chatter. Zethkar's form flared brighter. What is the meaning of this? Elena looked up at the council, and for the first time in 15 years, she smiled. I'm resigning from the Galactic Council. As of this moment, humanity withdraws from all treaties, all accords, and all diplomatic relations with the Galactic Council. You cannot simply. Article 7 of the Galactic Charter, Elena interrupted. Any species may withdraw from Council membership with formal notice. Consider this your formal notice. She turned to leave, then paused. Oh, and Council Prime, you might want to recall your forces from the Proxima Centauri system. We'll be needing that space. 6 months later, Council Prime Zethkar convened an emergency session. The Great Chamber buzzed with nervous energy as reports filtered in from across the galaxy. The humans have gone completely silent, reported Intelligence Director Quindle, his insectoid form clicking with agitation. No diplomatic communications, no trade negotiations, no requests for passage through regulated space. It's as if they've simply vanished. Council Member Velth R's crystalline form dimmed with concern. This is unusual. Even the most isolationist species maintain some level of communication. Perhaps they've accepted their fate, suggested Council Member Brexelon, his reptilian features smug with satisfaction. Confined to their system, they'll eventually come crawling back, begging for trade rights. But Zethkar wasn't so sure. In his 1,000 years of existence, he had learned to read species, to understand their fundamental nature. Humans had always been different, Their diplomats were too patient, too willing to compromise. It had made them easy to manipulate, easy to corner into unfavorable agreements. Director Quindle, Zethkar commanded, "What do our long-range sensors show in the Sol system?" The intelligence officer's mandibles clicked nervously. That's the problem, Council Prime. We're detecting massive energy signatures, but we can't identify their source. The humans appear to be engaging in large-scale construction projects. Construction of what? Unknown. Their jamming technology has improved dramatically. We can barely penetrate their system's outer boundaries. Velf RS form flickered with unease. Should we send a diplomatic envoy? They've withdrawn from all diplomatic relations, Brexelon pointed out. They can't simply ignore us forever. Zethkar made a decision that would haunt him for the rest of his existence. Maintain surveillance. If the humans wish to sulk in their system, let them. The galaxy is vast, and we have more pressing concerns. It was exactly what humanity had been counting on. Admiral Saracen stood on the bridge of the UES Defiance, humanity's first dreadnought-class warship. Through the viewport, she could see the construction yards of Luna, where hundreds of identical vessels were taking shape. The past 18 months had transformed the Sol system into something the galaxy had never seen. A fortress. "Admiral," called out Lieutenant Commander Torres from the communications station, "we're receiving a priority transmission from Deep Space Reconnaissance. It's Captain Morrison on the Shadow Hawk. Put him through." Captain Morrison's withered face appeared on the main screen, his expression grim. "Admiral, we've completed our survey of the Rigelian system. The mining operations they denied us access to. They're extracting trilithium on a scale that violates about 12 different environmental treaties." Admiral Chen nodded. "And the Centaur I shipping lanes? Completely monopolized. They're charging other species triple rates while using automated cargo runners. No crew, no safety protocols, no oversight. The vegan agricultural territories. Slave labor. Admiral, they're using captured populations from non-council species to work the fields." Admiral Chen felt a cold fury building in her chest. For decades, humanity had been denied access to resources, territories, and trade routes under the guise of galactic harmony. Meanwhile, the council species had been exploiting these same resources without oversight, without consequences. "Captain Morrison, how long until the Galactic Council realizes what we've been doing?" Morrison's smile was predatory. "Based on our intelligence, they still think we're sulking in our system. They have no idea we've been mapping every council world, every military installation, every resource depot in the galaxy, and the fleet. 3,000 ships and counting, Admiral. All equipped with technology the Council doesn't know we possess." Admiral Chen turned to her tactical officer. "Commander Park, status on Operation Revelation." "All strike teams are in position, Admiral. We have stealth ships stationed in orbit around every major council world. The moment you give the order, we can deliver simultaneous messages to every planetary government in the galaxy. And our message? Simple and direct. The Galactic Council has been lying to everyone. We have proof of their resource hoarding, their illegal operations, their exploitation of non-council species. We're offering an alternative." Admiral Chen walked to the viewport, looking out at the massive fleet assembled in space. Each ship represented months of preparation, planning, and the collective will of humanity to never again be forced to beg for scraps. "Send the message," she ordered. "Let the galaxy know the truth." The emergency session of the Galactic Council was chaos. Representatives from hundreds of species demanded answers, their voices creating a cacophony of anger and betrayal that echoed through the Great Chamber. "Is it true?" demanded Representative Calder of the Hegemony Worlds. "Are the Rigelians operating illegal mining operations?" "The evidence is fabricated," protested the Rigelian delegate, but his denials were drowned out by the presentation of detailed sensor logs, shipping manifests, and communications intercepts. Council Prime Zethkar struggled to maintain order. "These allegations require investigation." Investigation. The voice cut through the chamber like a blade. All eyes turned to the entrance, where a figure in black military uniform stood silhouetted against the light. Admiral Sarah Chen walked into the chamber, flanked by two Marines in powered armor. I thought humanity had withdrawn from the council, Zethkar said, his plasma form flickering with uncertainty. We have, Admiral Chen replied, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber. I'm not here as a member, I'm here as a witness. She activated a holographic projector, filling the chamber with images of exploitation, corruption, and abuse. For 2 years, humanity has been documenting the Council's crimes: resource theft, slave labor, environmental destruction, territorial manipulation, all hidden behind the facade of galactic harmony. The chamber erupted in angry voices. Representatives who had been denied resources now saw where those resources had gone. Species who had been restricted from expansion now understood who had been doing the expanding. This is propaganda, shouted Brexelon. Human lies designed to destabilize the council. Admiral Chen smiled coldly. Then I suppose you won't mind if we share this information with the rest of the galaxy. Every non-council species, every restricted civilization, every world that's been denied basic rights while you've been strip mining their neighbors. Zethkar's form pulsed with desperate energy. What do you want? Want? Admiral Chen laughed. But there was no humor in it. We don't want anything from you. We're here to inform you of new realities. She gestured, and the hologram changed to show the massive human fleet surrounding the council homeworld. As of this moment, humanity is offering protection to any species that wishes to leave the council. We're also offering trade agreements, resource sharing, and territorial rights to any civilization that's been oppressed by your policies. You're declaring war on the entire galaxy. Velf-R's crystalline form chimed with panic. No, Admiral Chen replied quietly. We're declaring independence from a corrupt system. The question is, how many others will join us? The answer came within hours. The hegemony worlds, who had been denied access to the Regelian mining operations, were the first to formally withdraw from the Council. The Altarian Federation followed, then the Draco Confederacy, then dozens of smaller alliances. In the Council chamber, Zethkar watched his civilization crumble. This is madness. Without the Council, there will be chaos, war, anarchy. Admiral Chen studied the plasma being with cold calculation. You're right, there will be conflict. But it will be honest conflict, not the manipulation you've been running for centuries. The humans have doomed us all, Brexelon hissed. When the shooting starts, the blood will be on your hands. The shooting already started, Admiral Chen replied. We've been intercepting your communications. 3 council fleets are moving toward human space as we speak. Zethkar's form brightened with hope. Then you see reason. Surrender now, and we can negotiate. Surrender. Admiral Chen activated her communicator. Admiral Rodriguez, status report. A voice crackled through the chamber. All 3 council fleets have been neutralized. Admiral, no survivors. The Regelian fleet never even saw us coming. The chamber fell silent. Admiral Chen continued as if discussing the weather. Your fleets were good against planet-bound civilizations, and minor disputes, against an enemy that's been preparing for war for 2 years. They were target practice. She turned to address the entire chamber. Let me make something clear. Humanity didn't abandon diplomacy because we're warlike. We abandoned diplomacy because we realized you were never negotiating in good faith. You were managing us, controlling us, keeping us weak, but you were the most peaceful species in the galaxy. Velf-Ara protested. You compromised on everything. Because we believed in the system, Admiral Chen replied. We thought cooperation was better than conflict. We thought civilization meant finding common ground. She paused, her expression hardening. But then we realized what you really thought of us. You saw our willingness to compromise as weakness. You saw our desire for peace as cowardice. You pushed us into a corner because you thought we'd never push back. So, what happens now? Zethkar asked, his form dimming with defeat. Admiral Chen considered the question. Now you learn what happens when you mistake patience for weakness. When you confuse diplomacy with submission. When you push a species that's capable of incredible violence. And then act surprised when they stop being polite. She turned to leave, then paused. Oh, and Council Prime, you might want to evacuate your military installations. We'll be dismantling them over the next few weeks. This is your only warning. 5 years later, the galaxy had settled into a new pattern. The Galactic Council still existed, but only as a shadow of its former self. Most species had either joined the Human Alliance or formed their own independent federations. Elena Vasquez, now Director of Human Diplomatic Services, stood in her office overlooking New Geneva Station, the capital of the Human Alliance. Through the viewport, she could see ships from dozens of species coming and going, trade vessels, exploration ships, even former Council species seeking new partnerships. Director, her aide announced, the Zethkari delegation is here. Elena smiled sadly. Send them in. Council Prime Zethkar entered, his plasma form noticeably dimmer than it had been years ago. He was alone, the once mighty council, now reduced to a handful of species clinging to outdated power structures. Elena, he said, his voice carrying none of its former authority. I've come to negotiate, have you? Elena gestured to a chair, designed for his energy form. And what exactly are you negotiating? The council is prepared to offer humanity full membership, equal voting rights, resource sharing, territorial recognition, everything you wanted before. Elena nodded thoughtfully. Before, when we were willing to accept scraps and call it progress. You've made your point, Zethkar said desperately. You've shown the galaxy that humanity cannot be pushed around. But this conflict has cost millions of lives, destabilized entire sectors. Surely it's time for peace. Peace, Elena laughed. But it wasn't the cold laughter of Admiral Chen. It was sadder, more thoughtful. Zethkar, we've had 5 years of peace. Trade is flowing freely. Species are exploring new territories. Scientific advancement has accelerated beyond anything the Council ever achieved. The only place without peace is the remnants of your empire, because you've been systematically dismantling everything we built. Everything you built was designed to maintain your power at the expense of everyone else. We didn't destroy galactic civilization, we liberated it. Zethkar's form flickered with desperate energy. But at what cost? You've turned the galaxy into a battlefield. Elena stood and walked to the viewport. Do you know what the greatest tragedy is, Zethkar? If you had simply treated us as equals from the beginning, none of this would have happened. If you had honored your treaties, shared resources fairly, and respected our sovereignty, we would have been your strongest allies. But you were impossible to deal with. You wanted everything. We wanted what you promised us and then denied us at every turn. We wanted the same rights you gave to species that were half our size and a tenth of our capability. We wanted to be treated as partners, not as a problem to be managed. Elena turned back to the diminished Council Prime. You know what the most ironic part is? You were right about one thing. Humans are dangerous. We're capable of incredible violence, devastating warfare, and ruthless efficiency. But we're also capable of incredible patience, endless compromise, and genuine cooperation. You had the choice of which side of humanity to deal with, and we chose wrong. Zethkar admitted quietly. You chose to see our diplomacy as weakness instead of strength. You chose to interpret our patience as submission instead of restraint. You chose to treat us like children instead of partners. Elena sat back down. So now you want to negotiate. What makes you think we're interested? Because you're still human, Zethkar said, his form brightening slightly. Despite everything, you still believe in cooperation. You still want to find common ground. Elena smiled, and for a moment, she looked like the young diplomat who had first entered the council chamber decades ago. You know what, Zethkar, you're right. We do still believe in cooperation. We do want to find common ground. Then you'll consider our offer. I'll consider it. But understand the galaxy has changed. Humanity has changed. We're not the species that begged for scraps from your table anymore. We're the species that rebuilt galactic civilization from the ground up. I understand. Do you? Elena leaned forward, because this isn't about you joining our alliance. This is about you accepting that the age of the Galactic Council is over. You can be part of what comes next, but you can't go back to what was. Zethkar's form dimmed as he processed this. What are your terms? Full disclosure of all Council activities, past and present, reparations to the species you've exploited, dismantling of all military installations and surrender of all Council fleets. In exchange, we'll guarantee your species' safety and offer full membership in the Human Alliance. You're asking us to surrender unconditionally. I'm asking you to choose between unconditional surrender and total annihilation, because those are your only options. Zethkar was quiet for a long moment. And if we refuse, Elena's expression hardened. Then you'll discover what humanity is really capable of when we stop being patient altogether. 50 years after the fall of the Galactic Council, the galaxy had achieved a level of prosperity and cooperation that the old system had never allowed. The Human Alliance had grown to encompass over 1,000 species, all working together as equals. In the archives of New Geneva Station, historians studied the records of the Council era, trying to understand how such a massive civilization had collapsed so quickly. The answer, they concluded, was simple. The Council had mistaken humanity's greatest strength for its greatest weakness. They had seen human diplomacy and assumed cowardice. They had seen human patience and assumed submission. They had seen human cooperation and assumed they could be manipulated indefinitely. They had forgotten the most important lesson in the galaxy. It is far more dangerous to make an enemy of a peaceful species than a warlike one. A warlike species will fight you on their terms, using methods you understand. A peaceful species that has been pushed too far will fight you on your terms, using methods you gave them. And they will be better at it than you ever imagined. The Galactic Council had spent centuries creating the perfect diplomatic and political system to maintain their power. They had written the treaties, established the protocols, and set the precedents. They had never considered what would happen when humanity mastered their own system and then abandoned it entirely. By the time they realized their mistake, it was too late. The humans had stopped asking for permission. They had started taking what they needed, and the galaxy had never been the same. Author's note: this story explores the concept of strategic patience and the dangerous assumption that diplomatic species are inherently weak. Sometimes the most peaceful people are the ones you should be most careful not to anger, because they understand better than anyone the true cost of violence, and they know exactly how to make it count.